This is back in the day when we didn't have satellites and hover. What do you call it? Somebody yell it out to me. What do you call the thing? Drones. And everything is photographed and in the Orwellian society that we live in today. And Sting would ride with the Steiner brothers.
Right.
And Sting was the wheelman. And Scott would sit in the front seat of the car. And, here's big 285-pound Scotty Steiner. And his brother, Rick, would be in the back seat. Well, what they would do is, because remember we all rent those Lincoln Continentals or the Cadillacs, and they would come down the highway, and what would happen is they'd see another car full of wrestlers. And Rick would come into the front seat, and Scotty would lower his window. And Sting would speed the car up to about 85 miles an hour, and Scott would hook his brother by the ankle and by the knee, and Rick would reach out the window, and they'd pull right up next to your car, open your car door, and grab you by the leg. And, I mean, if you think about it, all someone had to do was go, ah! It would kill everybody. But nobody ever did that.
Right.
Everybody just went, oh, just panicked when they saw this. Because here's Rick, Rick Steiner, who was just so scary back then.
Yeah, great guy.
And they would grab, he'd grab you by the leg. Well, I was riding at the time with the Samoan SWAT team. Samu, who's Alpha's son, and Junior, who became Rikishi, who's the father of the Usos, and the uncle of Roman Reigns. Well, what happened was we're up heading to a town, and we see Sting and the Steiners coming up behind us, and of course we lock the door.
Yeah.
So when Sting and the Steiners pull up, Steiner comes to get me, but I see him, and he comes. And he's knocking on my window, and we got these guys. So they pull up ahead of us, and Sting switches with Scott in the front seat, which is a very dangerous thing to do, and I don't recommend anybody tries it. And the next thing you know, they're throwing their food out at us, starting with a watermelon.
Yeah.
So here comes this watermelon flying at us on the highway, and we're going like this. And of course, the Samoans say, "Pull over, butter. Pull over at the convenience store." And they load up. And they load up with everything you can possibly imagine, so that on the ride back home, it's now the Road Warriors. And I don't mean Animal and Hawk. I mean the Mel Gibson movie, not the Tom Hardy movie. I mean the Road Warrior, Mad Max Part 2. So the Samoans are cutting their hands, and they're writing in blood, SST, and they're writing it on the car. And Sting and the Steiners are now involved in a full-born road war. We're throwing bottles and food and baseballs and anything that you could possibly have purchased. So by the time I got the car back to Charlotte, North Carolina, it was totaled. They declared the car, dollar rent-a-car, declared the car total, and they put the car up in the parking lot at is it MacArthur Airport? Whatever it is, in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will not rent to Paulie Dangerously.
Yeah.
Back in the day where you could actually get on an airplane as Paulie Dangerously. We will not rent to Paulie Dangerously of World Championship Wrestling ever again. I'm blacklisted to this day of ever renting a car.
Still?
26 years later, I can't rent a car.